Hello and welcome to Chapter 10, Lesson 2. Today we're going to be talking about the tenths place, which is right there. So at the beginning of the year we talked about this right here. It says U, but it's just the ones. We've talked about the ones, tens, hundreds, thousands, and so on. 10,000s, 100,000s, million, 10 million, 100 million. Now we're going to add our friend the decimal point. We're going to talk about the tenths place, that number right next to the decimal point. It's like if I had 15 and 6 tenths, this place right here is the tenths place. And notice when I had a decimal point here, the word I always say is and. Okay, so this number right here would be 15 and 6 tenths. So let's get started talking about this. Lorena and Rebecca went to 10 horseback riding lessons. 3 of the lessons were outside of the barn. What decimal represents the part of the horseback riding lessons that were spent outside? So we could say that 3 out of 10 were spent outside. When we read this fraction here, we would call this 3 tenths. And now that we know that place value, we know that we could write it as 0 and 3 tenths. Put a 3 in the tenths place. Here's a little place value chart. We have 0 ones and 3 tenths. We don't have any hundredths either, so we just put the 3 in the tenths place. So 0 and 3 tenths of the horseback riding lessons were outside. A campground has 10 campsites. 8 of the campsites have campers, so 8 out of 10. 8. G looks funny. 8 out of 10 campsites have campers. Then blank out of 10 campsites do not have campers. So that would be 2 out of 10 do not. 8 out of 10 do. 2 out of 10 do not. The number line is divided from 0 to 1 in 10 equal parts. Okay, so this would be 1 tenth, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, and so on. Well, see, now, I didn't remember that part. What part of the campground is empty? Okay, so 2 tenths of the campground is empty. So 0 and 2 tenths of the campground is empty. There we go. Example 3, use these words to describe 7 tenths. Right, that's how you'd say that number, 7 tenths. The 7 is in the tenths place. So 0.7 is 7 tenths. 7 tenths means 7 out of 10 equal parts. So 7 tenths can be described as 7 out of 10. So you can see here, hopefully, that decimals and fractions are basically the same thing. They mean the parts of whatever we're counting that are between the whole numbers that we're used to count by. 1, 2, 3, there's numbers between there, and sometimes we write them as fractions, sometimes we write them as decimals. Shade the model, then write the decimal. 4 out of 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of 10 here. So I can write that as 4 tenths. 0.4, sorry. Okay, 8 tenths. I can write my decimal as 8 tenths. Okay, now here it says explain why dimes could be used to model tenths. So here's the deal. How many dimes does it take to make $1? Hopefully you're saying 10, it takes 10, Miss Tamer. Yeah, 10 dimes to make $1. So if we say 1 is the dollar place, then that means this place value right here is the tenths place or the dimes. Right? So like, let's say I have $3.80. How many dimes do I have? 8 dimes. Right? So I have 3 $1 and then I would have 8 dimes or 8 tenths. So let's keep working here. I just love that connection though between dimes and the tenths place. Right, model and write each decimal. Okay, 2 out of 10 would be called 2 tenths. 0 and 2 tenths. 4 out of 10. This must be the homework part. Sorry, I didn't say that earlier. Would be 0 and 4 tenths. Use words to describe each decimal. This one I would say is 3 tenths. This one I would say is 8 tenths. Okay. Because the 8 is in the tenths place, the 3 is in the tenths place. All right, let's go to the next slide. Write each of the following as a decimal. Then graph each point on the same number line. 1 out of 10 equal parts would be also we could say as 1/10 or 0 and 1/10. So that would be right here on the number line. Here's 0, here's 1. Those are the numbers we're used to counting by, and now we're looking at the numbers that are between them. 7 out of 10 equal parts. Okay, 7 tenths. So I'd write it as 0 and 7 tenths, which would be right here. 7 tenths. 1/10, 7 tenths. Okay, let's keep going. Tracy is playing a game at the circus. She has 10 chances to throw a dart at a balloon. She hits the balloon 8 out of 10 times. 8 out of 10 times. Write a decimal to show how many times Tracy hit the balloons. 8 out of 10. So I know that's 8 tenths. So I would write it as 0 and 8 tenths. I could also write it as a fraction, 8 tenths. Okay, so let's go to the next problem. Jackie took a science quiz. She only answered 1 out of 10 problems incorrectly. Phew, I thought they were going to say she only answered 1 out of 10 problems correct. I was like, whew. Write a decimal to show the part of the quiz that Jackie answered correctly. Okay, so 1 out of 10, 1/10, or 0 and 1/10. Now, do you have to write it as a fraction? No, I'm just trying to make that strong connection between fractions and decimals. So if you don't write it as a fraction, A-okay. If you want to, because you like making that connection, that's good too. All right, Carter's mom bought 10 fruits at the grocery store. 7 of the fruits are bananas. Write a decimal to show the part of the fruits that are not. Now look at that, you guys. If you did not read this carefully, you would have gotten it wrong. That's why we always read the whole question all the way to the end. So what did it say? 7 out of 10 are bananas. And how many are not? So that means 3 out of 10 are not. I would write 3 tenths as 0 and 3 tenths are not bananas. Okay, that's all I have for you today. Hopefully we get really strong with tenths, and then tomorrow we're going to move on to hundredths, which is the next place value to the right of the decimal. All right, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.